Do they ever get referred to as that? The
Who?
Dan?
The
Steely Dan.
Dan?
The Dan?
I think sometimes they're the Dan. Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Okay.
That's etymological fodder for us as well.
Well, hey there, everybody. It's Michael Osinski.
And it's also Tyler Esselman.
And you are listening to or viewing This One Goes to 11.
That's right, you crazy cool cats and kittens. You're listening to This One Goes to 11, where typically we invite somebody into our virtual living room to make their case for what they believe is a perfect album.
So perfect that 10 out of 10 it just isn't good enough.
It's a radio thing, you cool cats and kittens, you know?
I thought that was from Tiger King, wasn't it? The like crazy lady who like had all the big cats on her property. Yes, I can't believe you remember her name. Wow,
Carol Baskin. Yeah.
Wow.
Didn't we all watch that in one sitting?
We did. That
was deep COVID right there.
What else were we doing? Yes,
right.
We were all watching Tiger King on Netflix.
Damn.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, welcome back to This One Goes to 11, and it's the season 10 wrap up. We had a hell of a season. Michael and I were just scrolling back through all of the episodes we did, and man, we covered a lot of ground this season.
We sure did. I didn't get the number, the spanning of years, but I think our most recent album that we covered might have been Thriller, which is crazy.
Which is crazy to think. And it also is funny and serendipitous that Thriller finally did come up. I mean, we talked about this on the episode with Kashia, but it's crazy that Thriller came up as this Michael Jackson movie is coming out. Just the timing of that kind of ended up being really wild, because now I don't know what it's like for you on your corner of the internet, Michael, but it's all Michael Jackson on my algo right now.
None for me, but that might be because I also don't have all my apps on all the time, so they're not all pulling everything from but also I'm not even watching television that much.
Good for
you. Like I'm not. Is it good for me? I don't know.
I mean, I'm saying good for you. I think it's a healthy choice. Balance, people. Because why go consume other media when you can just consume This One Goes to 11. So we've had a great season 10, all former guests, which was really fun, and just we got good friends, people. If you're listening to this, you're probably one of those friends, and we sure do love you. We thought we'd take this opportunity, since everybody else got to nominate albums that they believed were perfect that came out before that person was born. Michael and I thought it was only fair that we also had our chance to present some albums that fit that brief. So it's boys time this week. Just only, no girls allowed. Just
oh god,
just the boys,
just the family, as RuPaul says on the finale episode of Drag Race every season.
Yes, Ru. So this is, I mean, I can get into a little bit of how I'm going to go first. Isn't that we decided I was going to go first? Okay, I'll go first.
You go first, and you got and you got some splaining to do, as I told you I sent you a message ahead of time, but I'm gonna let you finish, and then we'll chat about it.
This is true. So everyone, the album that I am going to be presenting before This One Goes to 11 tribunal this week, in a semi-official capacity, is Asia by Steely Dan. Whew. Okay, if you know me, you know I love this album. This is kind of a very on-brand album for me, insofar as any of us have a brand, right? I kind of feel like this is if you know me and you know Steely Dan and kind of the connotations around that, I feel like it's. Do you see that, Michael? Would you agree with that for me? Does this seem like a me album?
I think so. I mean, I was actually thinking about, when we chose our albums for this episode, I was thinking about how if we look at all three albums that we have spoken about individually, it kind of feels like it defines each one of us. Like, because you've got Steely Dan, Asia, you've got Wilco, A Ghost Is Born, you've got Radiohead's In Rainbows. I feel like, that's That's Tyler. I think you're just in that list. You're missing like a female singer songwriter, and then
Right.
you'd be
You're
fine.
saying that's
and,
a particular
and
D'Angelo. Yes, that's fully my brand right there. Is add in D'Angelo and a female singer songwriter of the many that are available to you. Probably a Joni. Maybe it's probably a Joni, right? So that's a particular kind of white guy right there, isn't it? And so, but anyway, I just think that this was, as I was reflecting on the albums that I could choose that came out before I was born, I found it kind of difficult. But it's just kind of interesting to reflect on the fact that I'm not listening to a lot of music from the 80s and prior nowadays. Personally, I feel like I'm pretty much 90s forward for the bulk of my listening time. But this one was on the short list from the beginning. I know there's some skepticism in the room about whether I'm not sure if your skepticism is coming from Steely Dan as an entity, kind of them, or from the album itself. So like I'm interested to see what angle you take on that argument in just a moment. Do you want to say anything before?
No. You have the floor. You make your case first.
I'll take my time on the floor first. I mean, basically, I think that this is over the course of our time doing this experiment, where we're like bringing our friends on to talk about music on the internet. Basically, I think that we have come up with a few consistent criteria over time that it's a perfect album in the estimation of the aggregate minds of our guests. The main thing is that it has to mean something to you specifically. So like that to me, I actually started with that criteria first. So I was like kind of building out from that notion, right? Why not? We've done over 100 episodes. I feel like we have enough data to say that that's a legitimate assessment path, if you will. And so when it came to that point, it got me thinking about, okay, well, what were the albums that I discovered in that sweet spot? That sweet spot of adolescence, when we kind of like overall, the thing we keep hearing over and over again is that by and large, people think that the most perfect music that they ever hear is the music that they discovered when they were between the ages of, let's say, 13 and 19, right? Maybe plus or minus a year or two. Mm-hmm. So it's like that kind of sweet spot is like, what were the albums that I was coming to discover in that time that I felt like really defined me? And then I took that a little bit further. I've been incubating an idea that it feels like another factor of a perfect album is that it has to make you think about music at large in some way because of your relationship to it. Because I feel like that's how taste is formed, right? Is you're saying like, oh, I like this thing and I like this thing in particular more than I like other types of things. So it's like where you begin that discernment. That is an element that I think also fits with Steely Dan, because it was rock music that didn't kind of sound like classic rock, and it didn't sound like the rock of the 90s that I was also listening to a lot as an adolescent. It felt like it occupied this sweet spot in terms of heaviness. And I think that really got me thinking about like, well, how does rock music do that? How does guitar-based music do that? So this album was, as I discovered it, one that made me think about music in general and music as sort of like a greater art form, which I think is another criteria for a perfect album. In Asia, it checks all those boxes. Like I discovered this album when I was in high school. This was the first album that I ever had on vinyl. And this was also an album that was central to some key friendships for me. So like my friendship with my boy Connor, former guest on the pod, Andrew Morell, like those boys, like my core group of dudes. This was the music that we were like, isn't this kind of funny? Like we kind of thought Steely Dan was a little funny. And Steely Dan is a little funny. Am I wrong? Like that's, is it funny?
Do you mean like funny, like objectively humorous, or do you mean like people make fun of them, they're funny, or like it's...
They're a little corny.
What do you mean?
Right? They're a little corny. Like,
are they?
I mean,
I
think there's one read on them that looks at them as corny, but I think it's kind of like them being really particular to that like 70s style beat, like kind of beat poet, razzle dazzle, oh hello kind of Gil Faizon and that kind of energy.
Well, but do you think they were embracing that and doing their own sort of flavor of that, or do you think that they were mocking that, or like where does that sit? Because when you say are they corny? Was it intentional? Do they know they're corny? Like
No, I don't think
sort
they
of
know.
hard.
I think that's the funny thing is like, I think there is something that's so character-like about them. They're so exaggerated as characters. I'm like, is this like put on? Like, who is that kind of guy from the 70s who's like really into jazz, but maybe like was looking beyond just pure jazz, was trying to bring in some kind of, kind of salsa rhythms and stuff that he wasn't hearing probably in his circles. And I think like like it's another act of fusion, right? That's basically what they're doing is taking like salsa rhythms and kind of bossa nova stuff and infusing that into rock at the time. That's kind of what I think of when I think of yacht rock.
Well, that's the thing. And now that the term yacht rock exists, it's kind of hard to see Steely Dan in any other context. And I mean, yacht rock has emerged as being something that is also kind of corny, but the people who love it. And it's sort of like, Go ahead and hate on this. We don't care. We're going to embrace it. So
right. And it is soft. It is not, it does not have a hard edge to it, which I think is also, I mean, I think it makes it accessible in some ways, right? Like, like I could probably take my grandma to a Steely Dan concert and she'd probably really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think there is something wholesome almost about Steely Dan.
Almost.
Do you disagree?
I don't know if I would say wholesome. Sometimes some of the lyrics I'm a little like, I don't know what.
Yeah, well, these guys were definitely like dirtbags.
They're of the 70s. Well,
yeah, they were dirtbags. I think we can say that. We can say with confidence, and I don't think I say that as almost as a compliment. It's like so there's something so exaggerated about their masculinity as well that I think was instructive. As you're like, what? These freaking guys. Because also I did not get introduced to this by my dad, but this is dad rock. So I got introduced to this by Connor's dad and Andrew's dad, and they were the ones that sort of led Steely Dan into the room for us. Okay. And then we just latched onto it, I think kind of ironically at first. I would admit that maybe there was some irony when we started listening to it in high school, where it's like, oh, this is kind of dad rock. And I think that we were like, no, this is actually really good, because we were in jazz band. We were listening to jazz. We kind of understood what they were going for and what they brought to rock music that was a little bit different. But then I think that love became, so it's almost like that love started as sort of like an ironic joke. And then you're like, oh shit, it's really good actually. Like, it's actually just an excellent album.
Well, the jazz connection makes sense to me, like, especially for you, because of your deepening appreciation of jazz music. And it does, I mean, listening to it this week in preparation for this, I mean, there is something, I would not call it jazz, but there is something very jazzy about it.
And there's jazz rhythms, like they have those kind of rhythms and time signatures. And I think that's what, there is something about the consistent rhythm to a lot of their songs too, that it feels very intentional and it feels very unhurried. It feels very confident in some ways too. I think there's a confidence with which they speak where it's like, like it has to, you have to be kind of confident, like a crazy person, to be doing that on the stage that they are.
It doesn't, now that you mention it, like thinking about it, I do feel like maybe every song is at the same exact tempo. Like, quite possibly the same exact tempo. I mean, for this album, I know we've talked about one of their other albums
with Manny Cetera.
Yeah, that is part of the pantheon. But I feel like there was a little more variation in that
Can't Buy a Thrill.
Because I think about like Reelin' in the Years and Dirty Work as being like distinctly different songs. This album sounds like, I mean, it sounds like one song blends into the next, and it's a little harder for me to tell one song from the other. The main distinguishing feature, I would say, is, does it feature Michael McDonald or does it not?
Right. And can I just say that, like, as the listeners and viewers don't even understand all the shadow politics that happens behind the scenes between you and me, like the kind of intrigue that's happening on an administrative level to make this podcast happen, to bring you this content. We'll feed you baby birds, but there's a lot of machinations that happen behind the scenes, and I'm going to tell you that I have an ulterior motive with how I choose albums, and I'm always going to have an ulterior motive and a proclivity towards trying to get more Michael McDonald into the pantheon. Okay, you heard it here. I won't deny it.
He's a national treasure.
He really is. McDonald. He really is, and he's more wholesome than Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, I think. Am I wrong?
I think I don't know. I haven't done enough research on any of them. In fact, I would prefer not to do a lot of research on Michael McDonald, because if I learn something bad about him, I don't want to know it.
Yeah.
That's because I want to enjoy my What a Fool Believes. I want to enjoy.
Yeah.
Oh wait, what's that other song? The from the 80s, the one that's like. It's like. It's very 80. It's from a movie. I'll put.
Okay, we'll find it. We'll find it. Yeah. So and then this being my first vinyl that I ever, and so like I get introduced to Steely Dan, probably by Connor. Probably, who knows? You know, it was probably Connor. Maybe it was Andrew. And knowing that I was like, oh, this music's interesting, but not knowing it well enough where I'm like, I can tell you the songs. At that point, I was like, I'm going to get the vinyl of this. I had just gotten a turntable. And so the first record that I remember buying was this Asia album. And I remember putting it on this shitty, oh man, it was like a $30 turntable, but it works, man. I remember putting it on there and like not knowing what the first notes of Asia were. Like I was like, does it work? Does the turntable work or not? Because I could hear the kind of first notes of the album coming out, but they sounded really quiet. And I was like, maybe it's not working. But then it started to wash forward. And I was like, oh. And so I started to hear the album in this context. The first record I remember putting on was this. And just the kind of, it's a very sparkling beginning to the album. And like, they have such impactful bass lines sometimes without feeling heavy, but they like kind of, you can really feel the rhythm on the down notes. And just it's something about it immediately clicked in my head. The smoothness, the kind of intentionality, they knew exactly where they were going from beat to beat. They were unhurried. And I thought that, and there were moments where the language, this is all in the first listen, mind you, this is before getting any kind, but I was like kind of thinking to myself, man, there are these lines that are popping out to me that make no sense. They sound like they're from a magical world. They sound like they're from some parallel kind of universe with kind of like a noir vibe or something like that. There's a little bit of like a streetlights and rain kind of thing going on with Steely Dan sometimes. But yeah, and so from there I was just like, well, this is in rotation. And like a lot of times you can put songs from this album onto mixtapes, onto playlists, and they slot in really nicely, because they're good as like a song to connect a section of your mixtape to the next section, good transition song. So I don't know, that's kind of where my reasoning for why this means so much to me. And I just think song construction wise, like you said, it's a very consistent kind of tonal palette, but what I think that to me increases the reason why I believe it's a perfect album instead of a like perfect collection of songs, a lesser collection of songs. But as a whole statement, I think the fact that it's hard for me to identify where one song ends and the other begins means that it's a really cohesive document. And there's something happening that makes I hardly think about these songs individually. I'm always thinking about them as a unit. They relate to each other in my mind so closely. So I think that's where I'm at. I want to hear why I want to hear your hard questions. Give me a hard ball though. What do you think?
Well, okay. Dear listeners and viewers, in case it hasn't already become clear, like I don't know if I'd say I'm a Steely Dan skeptic. I believe I just sent Tyler a message before the episode saying, you're going to have to explain Steely Dan to me because I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like I just don't get it. I think there's sort of there's an image that goes along with them of just being like straight white guys of a certain age dig Steely Dan.
Yeah.
And and of course, my gay ass self over here is also going to be a little resistant to that. But the thing here, the question that I came up with, the first question I wanted to ask you is,
yes,
because obviously I think you and I have like subjectively different experiences with this band. In what way does this album move you? Like, where in your body does it hit?
It hits me like right at the back of my cranium. Like that's where I feel like there's like a beat poet thing. This to me is like Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac kind of sensation. It's very cerebral, but then they have these, I think they have these really, like I was saying, those there's a consistent enough bottom end of the rhythm to it that I feel it get down into my chest though sometimes too.
Okay.
Like there's something, it kind of moves you like a little bit like being on drugs. Like it little feels like it's moving you a little bit. It's not like going to grab you. It's not going to like grab you and tackle you and just like dazzle you. But there's something that kind of it hooks you in. It hooks you in, and you feel like on the corner, just like as how you and moving, just like that. That's what it feels like. Right? You were very, you see what I'm saying?
I think so. I think it's just maybe I think that may be the first root of like where our difference is because I don't all the music I really love gets me in the heart or the groin, frankly. Like it's like I feel like it's more
the buttocks.
It's more visceral, and so for you to say that it feels like there's something a little cerebral about this, I'm kind of like, okay, now I understand this. This is because I'm going to be honest, this whole album to me, the first thing that comes to mind is CVS. Like it feels very CVS core.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's. I wish I should have gone back and listened to our previous episode with Manny about this because I feel like I understand the intelligence of the construction of the songs. And I mean, I think from someone who studied classical music, like I also sort of understand that there is something a little more complex going on here and like really tight. Like, aren't they known for being very like very much a studio band because their production is like very like oof.
Yeah, and go and watch a video of them performing it live. It's so awkward. It's like really, really awkward to watch. They're so still, they're so still. And just like, I think it's funny because I think it's right brain and left brain in my opinion. Like it really tickles both sides of my brain. Cause I think I did not go back and re-listen to the episode with Manny either, but I feel like what I overwhelmingly remember about his case, he was like talking about the groove, man. Like he was like in his Italian accent. Listen, everybody go back and listen to Manny's episode because honestly, it was hilarious. Manny is so funny. He's so Italian. He's the most Italian person I've ever met.
That's saying something.
Have you ever met anybody more Italian than Manny?
I think I may have actually. But also, wow. I grew up in Syracuse, New York, so there's
that's
like
true. That's true. Okay, but I feel like he was always like the groove, man. Like that was what he was talking about, right? It's about a groove.
So. Yeah.
This is a groove. There is a funk groove element to it that I think I also found like very novel as a young person discovering this album where I was like, oh, okay, this is white boy funk in some ways, which is definitely a genre, a subgenre of funk that bears much investigation. Let me tell you,
this does make me wonder if there is a spectrum on if Steely Dan sits at the middle of the spectrum between Wilco and D'Angelo.
Michael, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about your favorite artists, and I'm like, well, wait, maybe this does sort of sit in the middle. I mean, don't come for me, pop culture writers about that.
I love that though. I think that's I think you're spot on with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think to get Steely Dan is to kind of like know that their music is it's just so yacht rock, I don't have trouble with the yacht rock thing because we know it when you hear it. Like you hear a band, or you hear, especially nowadays, because I feel like there's a little bit of a yacht rock revival going on
Yes.
at this point, that you kind of know it. You know that groove when you hear it's a swinging groove, almost always. And you can see
if you
that
hear Michael McDonald, you're in.
Yes, Doobie Brothers. Yeah,
Michael
like
McDonald, Doobie Brothers, Christopher Cross.
There's always a swinging groove, and I feel like that never goes out of style. And so they were tapping into something that they're kind of sitting at the nexus. They're sitting at the nexus of some really interesting strands of music. So for why I believe it's a perfect album, I think it's a complete statement. I feel like it is it sits at the nexus. It's intersectional in terms of its genre, which I think is a beautiful thing, and it attracts me to a piece of music. I think they're just kind of funny, like they're lighthearted, which I think I appreciate, and reminds me of my youth. Reminds me of when first falling in love with music to listen to Steely Dan, and it's just a really, I will always hold this album near and dear to my heart. It is part of who I am. Is ultimately what makes it. That's what clinches it for why I think it's perfect.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't knock personal connection to things.
I know you don't.
I think my thing is I just don't understand the appeal or the fascination, but you describing where it hits you in your body. I'm glad patting myself on the back for that question, because I'm like that made me understand better where our
Yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. When Josie comes home, so good. She's the pride of the neighborhood. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Just
those lyrics are so funny. Those lyrics are so funny, aren't they?
Just to be clear, dear listeners and viewers, the albums we are talking about today are not going to officially enter the Pantheon. So if you are someone who has never been on the podcast and wants to talk about one of these albums,
Asia.
we could do a whole episode about Asia again, and then maybe I will have something different to say about it then. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah. Maybe we'll get Donald Fagen to come on and make his case for why. He'd probably be like, "Fuck you guys."
Yeah, I don't think he'd be a fun interview at all. I think he would be.
No,
I think he'd be.
No, I don't want that.
Well, no,
I don't want that.
No, thank you.
Okay, well, so that's my pick for a perfect album that came out before I was born. Michael, tell our listeners, what album hath thou brought before me and the tribunal?
Well, I find it fascinating that we both chose albums that came out before I was born, because Asia also came out before I was born.
Yes.
Well, for my album, I have chosen the untitled fourth album from Led Zeppelin. Came out in 1971. Sometimes referred to as Led Zeppelin 4 because it came after Led Zeppelin 3. Sometimes referred to as Zoso because there's these these icons that are printed on the album itself. Instead of a title, that each band member contributed this like symbol. And I think Jimmy Page's symbol looks like the letters ZOSO. So sometimes people call it that. I believe the band starts referring to it now as just Led Zeppelin 4. But technically it was untitled. It was untitled because after Led Zeppelin 3 came out, they got some mediocre reviews. And so Jimmy Page was just like, well, screw that. We're not even going to call this anything. We're not going to give it a title. And the record executives were all like, it's not a great idea. And they were like, we're going to do it. And you can't do anything about it. So
pretty rock and roll.
Anyway. Yeah. I mean, when I think of definitive rock and roll albums, I mean, this has a definitive rock and roll song on it, specifically Stairway to Heaven.
I mean, a few of them. There's a few definitive rock and roll songs on this album.
Yeah. I mean,
When the Levee Breaks?
When the Levee Breaks, not original. That's technically their cover, but like a hard rock cover of something, and demonstrates the like amazingness of the drummer John Bonham. That song, like, I mean, the opening of it. I think some like R&B and like hip hop songs have actually sampled the drums from the beginning of When the Levee Breaks.
How could you not?
Yeah,
how could you not?
I feel
it's
like
incredible.
Black Dog is classic. I think
Going to California.
The song Going to California, the song called Rock and Roll is on this. Like, very, very.
It's outrageous.
It's a tightly packed. It's just an 8-song album, but like, if we're talking about perfection, I feel like this album, there are no skips on this whatsoever. Like, it is tight all the way through.
Totally.
But I mean, I first discovered this album. I'm trying to remember the exact year. I think I must have been in high school because, or like the end of high school, beginning of college, something like that. Um, I went to Cleveland on like a family trip, and we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
which you and I have been to, Tyler,
we
together.
have with friend of the pod, Ashlyn
Ashlyn
Lozano.
Lozano. And it was my first time going there. And, you know, I think at the time I was really into Pearl Jam, of course, because, you know, that was that time. But I remember, yeah, I remember they had some exhibit where they had like current rock artists, and if you like clicked on them, or I don't know, I mean, it was, you know, very low tech setup there, but you could learn more about the artists that influenced them. And for Pearl Jam, the Hall of Fame had chosen Led Zeppelin and The Who. And I would say The Who most definitely influenced on Pearl Jam. Zeppelin is now looking back on it a little trickier. I do think sort of like Mike McCready's guitar stylings come from Jimmy Page and Stevie Ray Vaughan. But I just remember being at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which for me, I can't wait to go again because it's sort of like, you know, kid in a candy store for me going to that place. And it just, I think learning more about an artist that influenced or, you know, sounded a little bit like the artists that I loved. I think that was the thing. I remember leaving the Hall of Fame wanting to listen to more Led Zeppelin and get to know them more as an artist. And I think very soon after that I might have gotten the box set to listen to, you know, as much as this, you know, pre-streaming days. So if I wanted to hear all the songs, I had to buy all the songs.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, for me, so that was, they were like maybe my first classic rock love, I guess.
Did you call them that at the time, classic rock?
Yes, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would have specifically said that. A lot of people refer to them as, you know, like the forefathers of heavy metal, which is a little weird to me. Although recently we watched, I think it's called Becoming Led Zeppelin. It's like this documentary that was on Netflix. It's all right. It's so.
Yeah.
But listening to the way that Jimmy Page wrote a lot of the songs and what he was doing with a guitar, yeah, I guess it does make sense. No one was treating a guitar quite like that. This is also the point where I have to acknowledge the fact that a lot of Led Zeppelin's music they owe a great deal to black blues musicians who they sometimes covered and sometimes arguably kind of ripped off lyrics or you know, it's there. I mean, it's not hard to find. But I mean, like as bands go, I mean, since I was just, you know, just starting to get to know Pearl Jam and rock bands and like the individual identities within a band. I mean, here's another band that has these, you know, very distinct identities. Like, you know, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant are arguably kind of, you know, a Lennon and McCartney situation going on there.
Right.
John Paul Jones being the sort of like steadfast bassist, and John Bonham being one of, you know, the greatest drummers of all time. It's just, it was, I don't know. I mean, like you talked about Steely Dan sort of, you know, getting like sort of the back of your head being kind of cerebral. This just feels like gut punching music. Like this feels to me like it made me understand what rock and roll music is and why I loved it.
Yeah.
That's what, and specifically this album. There are other songs on other albums that I like, but if I had to pick one of their albums that really jams it all together, I mean, even Four Sticks, which is like, you know, who plays Four Sticks? Nobody plays Four Sticks. Though. It's a badass song, and I mean, for me, this was very defining. Like,
was like the first rock band that you got into, or like this came after Pearl Jam.
After Pearl Jam. This was me listening to my CDs that I got from BMG and sort of formulating my rock music taste, and then realizing that they wouldn't be there if these other bands hadn't come before. And Led Zeppelin was one that spoke to me because I was, you know, just really starting to fall in love with like hard rock guitar music.
Yeah.
Not like, you know, thrashing metal or anything like that. There's still like a lyrical quality because you got Robert Plant, whose voice I know is take it or leave it for some people. Some people really don't dig his voice, but I mean, it's another instrument in the band essentially.
Yeah, it's nobody sounds like him.
No,
it's a classic rock voice that is like synonymous with rock, really. Like there's a soaring quality to it. It's like he's like a narrator in a fantasy novel. You know, like that. There's something very fantastical about this album. I would say, and their music in general.
And this went over my head at the time because I'm not a big like Tolkien guy, but apparently there's all sorts of references to Tolkien
Yes.
on this album and other. I mean, like Misty Mountain Hop, the Battle of Evermore, like. Yeah, there's all sorts of what's the lyric from Stairway to Heaven? If there's a bustle in your hedgerow or something like that. It's just it's but I guess
we
it's
all know
weird.
What that means.
Well, on some earlier albums they sing songs about like squeeze my lemon till the juice runs down my leg. Like they are
God love them.
I wonder if also
we're all going to hell.
If maybe also this was me starting my rebellion against my Catholic education, because there's
certainly would be a symptom in that.
Yeah, it's because there's something kind of crass about them, but also I don't
horny.
know. I mean,
they're horny.
What was that? Yeah,
they're
they're super horny, and and being someone who like grew up Irish Catholic in a house where we didn't talk about sex, like this is my outlet. I mean, this is. It makes sense to me also too. The other reason I think why Led Zeppelin spoke to me was I don't know if I was listening to Tori Amos yet. I might have. I can't remember when that happened, but she has covered I think at least two Led Zeppelin songs, and she's spoken about how much she loved their music and how influential it was on her too. So it's this. Here's this artist that's like influencing two of the major artists I was listening to at a formative time in my life. So
where are you at on The Who? Do you like The Who?
I do like The Who. I'm not going to say too much about them though, because we might be talking about them in a different capacity.
Okay.
I mean, that is gotcha. That's the clear like Pearl Jam influence, right? I mean, I think, Eddie Vedder is desperately trying to
be Roger Daltrey.
Or Pete Townsend. I think actually it's more Pete Townsend. Like Roger Daltrey does the vocals, but Pete Townsend's the one generating a lot of the narrative behind stuff.
That's fair. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Good take.
But yeah, this is and it's I also frankly love Led Zeppelin 3 that came before this, which sounds a little bit different, but I don't know, this just sounds like rock and roll to me, and I think it's probably cliche to consider this a perfect album and cliche to consider this deserving of the
it's foundational though. I think it makes a lot of sense to me why you chose this one, because the presence of Stairway to Heaven on there is I think a lot of times what we see on this pod is that people kind of choose albums that have an anchor song, that have a song that the rest of the album is built around. And I would argue that this album is built around Stairway to Heaven, because I feel like even if the other songs are kind of like impactful and successful, they're all kind of like feel like they're just kind of grown out of Stairway to Heaven. Am I wrong in that take?
No, I think you're right, but I don't think that was their intention. It's also not my favorite song on the album, frankly. It's sure. I mean, they didn't even release it as a single, and they kind of resisted it being released as a single because they were, it's an 8-minute long song that, it's who's going to play that? But apparently people did. So
yeah, come to find out.
It's epic, and dear listeners and viewers, if you have not already seen it, I think it was the Kennedy Center honors when they got inducted into that, and Hart performed Stairway to Heaven with John Bonham's son on drums and like a choir at one point. I mean, I think like it was moving the band members to tears because
it was badass.
Heart. We got to talk about Heart on this podcast. They are.
I don't know shit about Heart. I don't like.
Well, they've had phases of their career.
Have they? Okay.
Well, because they got like in the 70s they were like rock, like firmly rock, and then they got kind of poppy in the 80s, and there was all sorts of stuff about I can't remember their name, Ann and Nancy, and and like there's all sorts of like bullshit about Ann's weight or Nathan. I can't remember which one's married to Cameron Crowe. Which one was married to Cameron Crowe?
Shit, I don't know, man.
I don't know. The lead singer, there was all sorts of like bullshit about her being seen as overweight, and so they didn't feature her. They didn't feature her as prominently in music videos because she didn't seem. Or when they did, I think it's the video for the song Alone, and every time they cut to the lead singer, it's like close up of her face. And then it's her sister featured full body throughout the rest of the whole thing. And it's
people are shameless.
Well, it
People
was
are
the
absolutely
80s.
shameless.
80s was a different time.
That's terrible. Ugh. Okay. Well, you know what I want to, I want to know, like, where do you, where do, you said that, Stairway to Heaven is not your, favorite song in the album. Is there another one that stands out to you? What's the standout?
I mean, like my guilty pleasure is Four Sticks.
Four Sticks. Okay.
Uh, I do love rock and roll. I do
Mm-hmm.
love that song quite a bit. I do love Going to California for almost entirely different reasons.
Yeah.
I love When the Levee Breaks.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like if I were going to, I don't think there are any skips on this, but if I were going to skip any, I would skip over Black Dog, I would skip over Battle of Evermore, and I would skip over Misty Mountain Hop. Not because they're not good. When I listen to the album all the way through, I listen to the whole thing. But those are the three that don't speak to me as much, and yet they're still, killer
They're
songs.
still
So
excellent.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even your
What was
duds are
your
excellent.
take? What was your take on this? Because I don't know how
Yeah.
much you know about Led Zeppelin or how much you'd listened to them
Not a
at
big
all
Zeppelin
before
guy.
this.
Not a big Zeppelin
Yeah.
guy. Just like, I think I had I had a stronger Who phase in kind of middle school. But I never really stuck for me. I haven't quite been able to crack through with them in terms of like really feeling the undercurrent of their music. And it was a similar thing with me and Bob Dylan. It took me forever with Bob Dylan. It took me forever to get Bob Dylan, but
I'm
then it
still
all
working
came
on
at
Bob
once.
Dylan.
You still don't get Bob Dylan?
I get him. It's just I think maybe just not for me.
I would one car ride after college, I guess. I listened to Bob Dylan the whole way, and I was like, oh, driving across the Midwest, looking at that particular scenery, listening to that particular album at that time. We're not even talking about Bob Dylan right now, but I'm saying like I haven't had that moment with Led Zeppelin yet. So like I think going back and listening to this, I was like, okay, it's nice to just like focus on one album, and it's relatively short. It's not a long album, and that's the same with Asia. I find it interesting that we both chose albums that are relatively short, and I think there's
both under 45 minutes. Yeah,
right. There's something very tight about this album in the way that there's something very tight on Asia. There's not a lot of wasted space, and I think that that's kind of the je ne sais quoi with an album. Sometimes it's just you're like, oh, I don't think there's no note is out of place. This feels like it's meant to come out the way that it is, almost like it sprouted organically. It's a quality that I've felt in other albums, and it's a quality I feel here. I feel like this definitely fits my criteria of this is the kind of album that makes me think about music as a greater art form. That makes me think about music on a cosmic level, because you hear this and then you can see, without Led Zeppelin, we sure don't get Greta Van Fleet. Let me tell you, rest in peace, Greta Van Fleet. You knew I was going to invoke them. You knew.
Yeah. I mean,
they were kind of absurd, weren't they?
Yes. And they just sounded like they were like directly copying Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Like it's to a point that, again, I'm not going to poo poo on anyone's art, but I sort of feel like when I heard them, like, wow, you sound like a Led Zeppelin cover band.
Yeah,
but what's your own identity within that? But anyway, not shitting on them.
I respect. Don't hate the player, hate the game. That's where I am going to go on this. Is that it makes sense to kind of you can just emulate this kind of music, and it turns out to be. I think that's another power of classic rock, quote unquote, is that kind of anyone can try to emulate it. Like anyone, it's a kind of thing. It's an identity. Rock and roll is an identity in the way that Led Zeppelin kind of personifies it, is something that looks attainable and looks accessible. And I think that's a good thing about it. Like it's fun to play rock and roll. It's fun to be a rock star. So you could play guitar music like this, and you can learn how to play these songs. I remember kids in my guitar classes growing up, they were always playing Stairway to Heaven and classic rock like that. So it's a powerful thing, man.
You can try to play them, but you're never going to play them the way Jimmy Page played them.
No.
That's the
whole point.
That is maybe the best thing about the documentary Becoming Led Zeppelin, is watching Jimmy Page work and like learning more about, like, I think I developed a greater appreciation for him as one of the greatest guitarists of all time, and also one of the greatest producers of his era, because like some of the effects on these songs, he was doing things that, now you could, there's software that could do it in a matter of seconds. But like Like there's sometimes the echo. I'm trying to think of what song it is where there's like on an earlier album. It might be Whole Lotta Love, where he like plays with Robert Plant's vocals and does all sorts of crazy stuff with it. He's a true musician, helped define what rock music is, and I think that is part of why I believe this is the perfect album. So,
hell yeah. I'm pretty on board with this. It rips. It really is. It's soaring. It's just like it's so much richness, and that kind of quality that I was talking about with Asia, where it's like it feels so intentional. There's no point at which it feels like they're lost. They always feel like they're guiding you on the journey, and you feel taken on the journey with them as opposed to just observing something. It's really immersive. There's a very immersive quality to this. And I love the fantasy. I just saw this thing that was referencing like dungeon core music, which is kind of like electronic music that has like a fantastical tint to it. Feels like it could be the score to like a fantasy TV series or something like that. Yeah. But also is kind of techno, a little house music inflected. There's something very interesting about that. And I feel like almost we don't get that without Led Zeppelin, because Led Zeppelin kind of gave permission on a musical level to, be this theatrical in a way as a rock musician.
Yeah. Soon after this album, they're going to come out with, I don't remember which album it's on, but the song Kashmir, which is maybe one of their other most well-known songs, which has been, I feel like used in various movies, which has a very epic nature about it. I mean, yeah, they're epic. Yeah, they're not, epic. You're not going to go see, like, you don't, if you hear, oh, Led Zeppelin's, they're doing an acoustic set, like a coffee shop. You're like, I don't think that's why I want to go see Led Zeppelin.
I'm good on that, but I'll go see him in a stadium for sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I feel that they had the same thing as Bruce, where you're like, you can only see them in a stadium at this point, because they sort of innovated that form.
Yeah,
they were the ones that were doing that.
Well, and Robert Plant, God bless him, he's still like going out there and collaborating with other people. I mean, he has a long history of collaborating with Alison Krauss, but
dude, I was gonna say I am pro the Robert Plant Alison Krauss collaboration. I think it's so good.
He is still. So his vocal range has definitely diminished.
Sure, naturally.
But he still sounds very much like himself. Like I think the only thing you would notice is like his voice sounds a little bit more tired, and he just can't hit higher notes anymore. So
yeah.
But, God bless him.
It's a privilege to grow old. It's
yes,
it really is. It's coming for us, and it's nice to see him be able to still do this thing that is so a part of who he is, it would presumably. So I hope he gets to do it as long as possible. Yeah.
Hope he's doing okay.
Hope he's doing okay. AKA hope he's doing okay. I think if somebody wants to come back and go dig deep on these, let's do it. Let's talk more Led Zeppelin. Let's talk more Steely Dan.
Still a lot of artists from before we were born that we have not covered. We haven't covered the Beatles. We haven't covered Dylan. We haven't covered Janis Joplin, Hendrix,
Nina
The Who,
Simone.
Stevie Wonder, Nina Simone. I mean,
I just saw a video the other night of Stevie Wonder and John Legend playing "The Way You Make Me Feel." Did you see this?
Wait, the Michael Jackson song?
Yeah, they were played at the 25th anniversary of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And Stevie breaks down while he's singing, just over, because it must have been shortly after Michael died. And it's a really beautiful. I'll send you the video. It's really beautiful.
See, now I saw the polar opposite of a video like that most recently, which is the YouTube algorithm was fed us Cher and the Osmonds in the 70s doing a Stevie Wonder medley, and it is exactly how you think it sounds.
Oh my
and
God.
looks. Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
It was difficult. It was.
I love how we were both getting Stevie Wonder content though.
In very different ways. You have the algorithm is delivering you more high quality content.
I guess so.
So I know that when we ask people to nominate lists or nominate albums for us, we ask them to provide us with a list. So, dear listeners and viewers, you may wonder, do Tyler and I each have a list for this? And the answer to that is yes, we do. But so we have some honorable mentions, but we're going to save them. You'll have to check those out on social media. There's a couple other artists, but until then, you're going to have to wonder who I have chosen as my honorable mentions.
Well, you'll just have to wonder who, and
wonder who I have chosen as my honorable mentions.
Well, listen. Stay tuned to find out. This has been it's been a damn good season. We really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening wherever you are, and would love for you to let us know what else you want us to talk about. If you have any recommendations out there, people that you think would be great. We've gotten some emails and some recommendations of people. People are using the resource. We just want to give people the opportunity to be recorded and talk online, talk in the public square, the public forum, if you will.
It's a bit of a time capsule we're creating here too, that sort of thing. So
amen, dude. So we're going with the summer. We've got some fun stuff coming. Michael's going to the Radiohead installation.
I am going to Motion Picture House in Brooklyn in a couple weeks. Maybe I'll do a little special episode. I'll pop on and talk about my experience of going to do that, because we haven't talked about Radiohead in a while, to be honest, which is crazy because the first few seasons it was in every single episode.
Radiohead all the time. Yeah.
And we got some more bonus content coming up this summer too, though, don't we, Tyler?
We do. We have some fun stuff coming up in the summer. A new concept. We love to try out a new little segment here and there. So we got one of those coming up for you, where you will hear from more former guests. So stay tuned for that. Well, and that's another reason to like and subscribe and follow us. And then you'll know all about all of our stuff on the social media. Mm-hmm. You got anything else, Michael? Is that it?
I mean, and also I'm just going to put out there for all our hundreds and thousands of listeners here, can you guess what colors the season 11 logo is going to be? That's how nerdy I am.
Yeah. Leave a comment with your guess.
What color do you think it's going to be? Yeah.
We'll send a surprise. We'll send a surprise gift to whoever gets it right.
Hickory Farms gift basket.
Sausage.
Yes.
A little bit of sausage and cheese for you.
Oh my God.
Well, I guess that's all there is left to say is bye.